tardes, ¿qué tal mis amigos? Una vez más aquí como siempre saludándolos aquí de los estudios del periódico El Mexicano. Yo soy Fernando Zápara y en esto que es ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Se viste de lujo el día de hoy. Tenemos a un gran amigo de la comunidad. Today on ¿Qué pasa? We have it's a great honor to have a very good friend here, a person that's very well known in the world of politics, not just in Fort Wayne but in Indiana and I could say nationwide. Daniel, your opinion, presentation on our great friend here. I mean, tell us.
Andy, welcome. Let's start with that. Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics, teacher at IPFW, the largest university in Fort Wayne, Indiana, over 14,000 students, and other hats. In fact, Andy, how many hats do you wear?
Well, right now just two, fortunately. I'm the director of the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics, which is a nonpartisan body, and our purpose is to help people understand the role of politics and government in their daily lives, and we hope they'll get involved because of that. And then I'm also an assistant professor of political science at IPFW.
You touched that, political professor at science at IPFW. And your father came...
Michael Downs. Yeah.
Michael Downs in 1966, if I'm not mistaken, here to the beautiful city of Fort Wayne. And he stayed. What's about Fort Wayne that we come here and we stay after? I mean, what's so special?
It is amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing, yes.
Because everybody talks about wanting to leave Fort Wayne. You know, a lot of people come back or they get here. And
they come back. That's very, very true. Know so
well,
many people myself.
My dad actually came here in the fall of '66, and he thought it was just going to be temporarily while he finished his dissertation and then went to work for the Foreign Service. But once he got here and began to get a little bit involved in the community and spent probably too long finishing his dissertation, by the time he was done with that, he had laid down some roots here and he had met some very nice people and saw that it was a community that was worth living in. And so he was still at IPFW in 2001 when he passed away.
Oh, what a great story that is, Mike Downs. The Mike Downs Institute was built because he was, a group of friends got together, if I'm not mistaken, and they wanted to honor him. What can we do after he passed away in 2001? And that's how he was born. Now, that tradition has passed on to you, because what your students say about you, and I was just reading, I mean, it's amazing what they think about you, and I'm going to read a few comments from some of your students. Andy is a wonderful professor. He's extremely knowledgeable and very open to discussion. He's also approachable outside of class. His lectures have a lot of humor in them, and he learns his student names, which is very nice. Yes, and we all love to be called by our names. And that's just one of many. I really enjoyed this class. It was challenging, but he made it interesting. He's one of the nicest and most helpful professors I ever had, and I'll definitely try to take a class with him again. And that was what your dad was doing when he came to Fort Wayne back in 1966.
Yeah, but his idea of teaching was not to try and indoctrinate people to be a Republican or a Democrat, but instead to help people understand how important the things are that government and politics do in our lives. And so when he passed away at the funeral home and other places, people were walking up who are Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party members, and they were saying, I follow politics because of your dad. I ran for office because of your dad. And people said, you know, it'd be really good if somehow that mission continued, although it was just what he did. The center was created so that mission could continue.
Okay, that was great. Awesome. Daniel?
And how does the mission continue, Andy? Today, the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics, I know, does polling.
We do a little bit of polling, yes.
And how does the mission continue today through your efforts?
Sure. The thing that most people see probably is the public interaction, whether that is with a service club or a group that asked me to come and give a talk. For example, I was in Elkhart County not too long ago at the League of Women Voters up there. I've spoken to the Rotary clubs, a couple of the Rotary clubs here in town, Sertomo Club here in town. I also provide a reference service to people. If somebody say, well, gosh, I'm not sure how to find this bill, whether it passed or not, I'll answer that question for people. And then I also make myself available to answer questions from the media as well. So doing things like this helps to provide some visibility. But basically, if people have a question, I do my best to answer it.
I don't know if it has anything to do with the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics, but I know that every 2 years I see you at Northside High School for the partnership candidate forums.
Yes.
And also, you're a former member of the Allen County Election Board. And what is? Do you plan to do the partnership candidate forums again now that we're getting into election season here?
Yeah, no, we should always give credit to people who push initiatives. And Joe Foy, who's a member of the Northside Neighborhood Association, has been pushing that candidate forum for years and years and years. And he, of course, is very interested in us doing it again. We are not doing it this spring, but it's likely we'll do it again in the fall.
Right.
And I happen to live in the Northside neighborhood, so that's one part me just being a resident there and one part me being the director of the Mike Downs Center that makes that happen.
Una vez más, estamos aquí en ¿Qué pasa? Claro que sí, aquí tenemos a nuestro buen amigo Andy Downs, está de visita con nosotros, que nuestro buen colega Daniel Yell también. Él es un analista político muy conocido aquí en el estado de Indiana. Él es de aquí, originario de Fort Wayne, pero es conocido también en todo el estado de Indiana y también a nivel nacional. The mission continues.
Yes, it does.
What can we do, Andy, or how can you help us? You know, the Latino vote has become so important and so crucial. And in these 2012 elections, is really, what do you think about the Latino vote? Is it going to make a big difference? Is it going to make a difference? Tell us, what can we do to get more involved? It seems like we still need a little push to get more involved into politics. I mean, we're over 50 million total population here of Hispanics living in the U.S., and we still don't have enough representation, you know, in politics like I like to see. What do we need to do? How can we get involved? How can we transmit that to our kids, or where do we start?
Sure. There's an unfortunate opportunity that we've missed, and that's redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
When the maps are being drawn for where congressional boundaries are, where state rep and state senate districts are to be found, that's a really good time for people to make sure they're speaking, and so that communities of interest are held together. Now, unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity again until after the 2020 census. So the question is, what do we do between now and then? Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of things that I have found over the years. I used to talk to people about voting and say it was important because, you know, people have died for this, et cetera. This is sort of the usual patriotic thing that people talk about. But what I find works better is to find out what interests people and then explain how government affects that. So if somebody says to me, well, I want to be a teacher, I point out that teachers usually work for elected officials. If somebody says, I want to be an engineer, I point out that governments hire engineers to engineer streets and sewers. If somebody says they want to be a doctor, I talk about healthcare reform. I talk about HIPAA. I talk about things that will matter to them. And the usual reaction is that people recognize that at some level of government, there is something that's important to their life. And once people start voting in that one place, whether it's a city council race or president of the United States, they start to realize that they should be voting in other races because they're on the ballot. And it becomes a little easier for them to learn about those other things when they become sort of an expert or at least pretty well informed in the one area.
Thank you so much once again. We're here with in Ké Pasa. Yo soy Fernando Zapari with our great friend Andy Downs. Andy Downs es un experto analista político de aquí de Fort Wayne, Indiana, y reconocido a nivel nacional. Such a great honor to have you with us, and thank you so much for this time, Andy, and we will move into our studio with RadioLatinoTV.com. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. Gracias.